If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This has been another episode sponsored by Online Horse College. If you haven't had a look at the wide variety of equine-specific accredited courses, then go to onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there. Today's guest on Horse Chats is Carol Hobson. Carol's a thinker and she's seen a lot of changes within the equestrian industry. She's had a background in show jumping, eventing and dressage. She's ridden at the Masters Games in show jumping, and because she's a thinker, she's probably got a little bit of a different idea that she's not particularly worried about competition. She's more worried about training, correct training for the horse and the rider, with a background from Nuno Oliveira as well. How are you, Carol?
I'm really well, thank you.
That's good. Now, Carol, you know that I'm going to ask your favourite quote to start with, so would you like to tell it to us?
My favourite quote is, "The time that you think you know everything is the time that you start to go backward."
Yes. Okay. Now, that particular quote, has that influenced you at all? Has there been a time where you thought you might have known everything and then realised that you really don't know everything? How's it influenced you, or how's it influenced you as a coach where you've got to teach people around you?
I think because I was lucky enough to have that quote said to me when I was very young, as a teenager and in my early 20s, and because I am a thinker, always thought, yes, along those lines. So in that way, I'm probably fairly lucky. And I have repeated, that comment to quite a few people. I'm not sure that everybody agrees with me, especially these days, because everybody's in so much of a hurry. They don't take time to think.
Yes. Carol, think about one of your first memories with horses, or something where you've learned something, the first time you learned something about horses.
I guess one of the first things was I was brought up in Victoria. And, I learned by basically chasing cows and getting stock in for the local abattoirs at Carrum, which of course is now, on a highway. But there was a chap that was working there, and he'd come from Portugal. I can't even remember his name, but he did so much dressage with his horses, even chasing cows. And this was in the days before we saw Aintree Brewery under lights with Owen Matthews at Melbourne Royals.
Yes.
Well before then. And what he did with his horse, his buckskin horse, I can remember it, like it was yesterday. I can't remember his name. I remember the work that he did with the horse, and it was so different to anything that we'd ever seen. We used to whip train our horses and, lunging didn't exist. So it was very, very different. But that stuck in my mind, from a very, very early age.
Yes.
And I think then when dressage came along, I sort of thought, this is just what that guy was doing from Portugal.
Yes.
And then, of course, later on, I ended up going to Nuno. Whether that was, in the back of my mind or not, I'm not really sure, but I do like the Southern European system.
Yep. Now, the guy, had he trained with Nuno? Had he ever said, did you ever ask him where he learnt everything from?
No, I didn't. I was only sort of, 14 or 15, and I would have been too shy to talk to this chap. He would have been, I guess, in his late 20s or early 30s, and in those days it was very rare to have somebody from another country, let alone, somewhere like Portugal or Spain, and he was the odd person out.
Uh-huh.
So, we all sort of watched him, and, for me, I thought it was just amazing.
All right, I think that's a very good memory to have. Yeah. Now, what about you as a coach? You've gone on, you've done quite a lot. You've been in Pony Club all of your life. You've sort of been coaching a long time as well. What made you have a career with horses? What sort of started that off?
I'm not really sure. I've always loved Pony Club and always been really interested, and always thought that we need continuity.
Yes.
And to have continuity, we have to have people that are willing to start our little kids off in the right way, steer them in the right direction. I mean, they might go to Pony Club till they're 17 or 18, or these days even 25. But at least if we can give them a really good basis, and of course Pony Club is safety orientated, they can go anywhere in the world, once they've learned, the correct basics. And they can grow from there. They can go racing, they can go dressaging, they can go eventing, they can do whatever they like. But Pony Club gives them a very, very good start. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be an awful shame if Pony Club did not exist.
Oh, definitely. Certainly gives a lot of people just the miles that they need too. It's not just about going out and riding for just a little bit, but, to be able to go out and spend all day with your horse and with your friends and do all that riding.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people forget children learn from children. At school, it's not one-on-one. They're in a class situation.
Yes.
And the same at Pony Club. Lots of kids, come to Pony Club originally because, Mary Jane has got a little Shetland pony and, gee, I'd like to be going to Pony Club as well.
Yes.
So, they end up by wanting to be the same as their mates.
Yes.
And it sort of, it grows from there. And even to this day, my closest friends still are the ones that I went to Pony Club with at Chelsea Pony Club, at Macclesfield Pony Club in Victoria, my goodness me, all those million years ago.
Yes.
Some of them have not stayed involved with horses, but a lot of them have. Yes. And, we might not talk for 6 months or 12 months, and I can pick up the phone, conversation just goes on as if it was yesterday.
Yeah. All right. Now, what do you think if someone's going to go on and even at Pony Club and if they say, I want to work with horses, what sort of skills would you be looking for them to have? Character traits, core skills, so that you'd know that they were going to have a good career, that they could do well within the horse industry.
Well, it's such a changing industry these days and we know that even the gear that we use now is different. The horses that we use are different. Yes. When I was at Pony Club, I rode one horse and led the other one 12 miles on the road just to get to Pony Club. Yep. Whereas today, we're purpose breeding. It's a completely different situation. But, I think that they've got to really want to do it, and not be pushed by their parents or because they think it might look fantastic. So, they've got to be really hungry to do it. It's a bit of a difficult one. Usually you can tell sort of fairly early on if they're keen. I just have to look at the expressions on some of the faces of the riders when I'm teaching them, just to see how really keen they are. Yep. We get a lot of riders that just, they come in and they ride for 4 or 5 years and we don't see them again. Uh-huh. And, you get the odd one and you think, oh, gee, this one's going to continue on.
Yes.
And I try and make myself available for my students 24/7. Mm-hmm. They know if there's a problem, they can pick up the phone. The horse may have colic, it might have got caught in the fence. They know that I'm available to them 24/7. And I think that's fairly important because then I can answer any questions for them and hopefully steer them in the direction that they wish to go. Yes. But of course, it's their choice. We get some riders that are really dead keen on jumping. We've got others that want a dressage. And until they're ready to make that decision themselves, all we can do is just give them a broad range of experience. And then as a coach, depending, of course, on the horse and their situation, then we can maybe steer them in the direction that we think they might like to go. But they've got to make that decision themselves.
Yep. Now, if they do take that choice to work in the horse industry, what do you think is the best thing about working in the horse industry?
Oh, my goodness. My husband called it a disease, which I've had since I was about 8 years old.
Yes.
There's just, well, to me, because I love horses in any shape, size or form, I guess for me it's just working with the animal. I like dogs as well, but I love the horses more.
Yep.
And I think you've got to love it. You've got to really, really, really love it. I'm in my mid-60s and I've still got 4 horses out of the paddock and I love them all to death. Why am I going over to China teaching young children to enjoy the horse industry? Because I love it myself. And yes. I guess you've got to take on the whole picture. Mm-hmm. I'm lucky that we have land, so I only have to walk out the door and the horses are here. But there's nothing nicer than driving in the driveway and, a horse starts neighing and they say, oh, good, mum's home.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes, it is lovely.
So, I guess I just love it. So, and that's how it is.
Yeah. Now, you've talked about Nuno influencing you. Do you think he's the one that's influenced you the most, or has there been other people along the way who've influenced you and, kept you going? Not just kept you going. I mean, you've always had that love, but just kept you on the straight and narrow, maybe. I don't know. Who else has influenced you?
Well, I'm very lucky that I've had some very good coaches over the years, and I think the first one that influenced me the most was most definitely Murray Wheatley, who had a lovely big grey horse called Snowy River. It was an eventer, and he was my coach at Pony Club, and my word, he straightened us out. And he also made us realise how important dressage was.
Yep.
I loved eventing. I wanted to be an all-round rider. I wanted to be able to do dressage and show jumping and eventing. So, to me, eventing was the full package, to be able to do a bit of everything.
Yep.
May not necessarily be that, a master of one, but jack of all trades. But Murray was very, very, very influential in my teenage years. He was absolutely marvellous. And I guess he sort of instilled, I was already thinking on the dressage line, but he instilled those good values. We had fantastic camps, and we were lucky enough to go and see Franz Moringa because Murray was working at Oakland Club at that time. I still think of Murray quite often. So he was probably a catalyst, in my late teenage years when I was eventing all the time, and and he was around to pick up the pieces if anything went wrong. But he also, he instilled the training and the horse care, and have your horse shod every 6 weeks, and that everyday care.
Yep.
He really instilled. So I guess I was very lucky to have him.
Yes.
And then, of course, after I'd moved to Tasmania and sort of, there was very little eventing here, so I went hunting for a while. And then we were lucky enough to have Glenys Shanley come over to a Pony Club camp.
Yep.
Originally with her husband to show Tasmanians how to break horses in. And Glenys has been my coach ever since, and she's now in her 80s. If I have a problem, even now, I'll just pick up the phone and ask Glenys. If it wasn't for Glenys, I certainly wouldn't have been able to sort the problems that I had with difficult horses. We used to ride all sorts of horses. I've mainly ridden thoroughbreds. These days I've got, mixed blood horses, Irish sport horses and Dutch warm bloods. But I started off on thoroughbreds. They were horses off the track. Glenys had such a fantastic understanding and ability with every single type of horse that came along. And through Glenys, I was lucky enough, to go to Nuno. What fantastic opportunities we had. And I think she, as I said, starting off with Murray, because he definitely started the ball rolling, that Glenys has certainly kept it going. And to this day, we're very good friends. And if I have an issue, I'll still ring her up.
Yep. I want you to think about both those coaches that you mentioned, Murray Wheatley and Glenys Shanley. Almost close your eyes and think, what do you think is there something they would say to you over and over again that you think every time, you might ride and think, oh, that's right, I've got to do this,
Well, certainly with Glenys, it would be, make sure that I have the horse in the outside rein and soften the inside rein.
Yes.
And I guess my hands have always been my biggest issue as a rider. And so as a coach, that's probably the first thing I pick on if I'm looking at a student, because that's my weakness.
Yep.
So I guess, and I like my horses to be soft.
Yep.
So, and liking that Southern European style of riding, which Glenys also does, I guess, the hands, I'm very, very conscious of where my hands are, and the horse is tracking up and is going in good rhythm and not running.
Yep.
So certainly that from Glenys. And with Murray, again, it was rhythm and take time. Don't be in a hurry. Think about what you're doing. And I guess the other thing, Murray, he always said, don't go out to work your horse with a time limit. If you have a time limit, you will run into strife.
Yep. Yes, and if you've got all the day and all the time in the world, it doesn't take very long. That's
right, and especially if you've got a young horse or a horse with a problem, if you go out with a time, you can guarantee you'll run out of time.
Yeah.
And you're not going to fix the problem. always finish on a good note from both of them, of course. And that's something I like to teach my riders as well. You mightn't be able to solve every problem, every lesson, but, try and finish on a good note for the horse's sake.
Yes. Okay. What about the horse who you think's influenced you? You got a horse that you'd like to talk about?
Probably the horse that taught me the most was a grey horse called Pardon Me Please. He was 3/4 thoroughbred and a quarter Arab.
Just say his name. What's his name?
I got him
again?
as a 4-year-old. Pardon Me Please.
That's good. Mm.
And people used to see him competing, eventing, and, he did a fairly good dressage test. And, they'd come down to my place and they'd say, "Oh, where's Pardon Me Please?" And I'd say, "See that grey horse over there in the paddock?" "Oh, no, that's not him." Because he looked very, very plain and very ordinary when you'd see him in the paddock. But when you rode him, he was a completely different horse. But he was very, very smart.
Yep.
And, when I first started going to Glenys, I had, quite serious issues with the horse. He'd stick his head on his chest and I wouldn't know how to fix it. And, I can remember Glenys saying to me one day, "Oh, my God, Carol, you can see that straight," when I actually got the horse in front of the vertical.
Yes.
I've been trying to get it for ages. So that sort of, it sticks out like a dog's hind leg. And and it was a long time ago, but that horse taught me so much.
Good.
I competed him until he was 12 or 13. He came up with some cancer in the parotid gland, and I thought, he's not going to keep going.
Yeah.
So I passed him on to my daughter, Marinda, and she took him to Pony Club, continued to keep going with him. She took him to trials. I used him for vaulting. He kept going till he was 22.
Oh, wow.
And, I sort of thought as a 12-year-old, he's had it, but he just kept on keeping on. And he was fantastic. I can remember when we sort of retired him in the end when he was 20 and, the cancer was huge lumps and he really couldn't flex and bend at all. It was quite difficult, but he wasn't ready to be put down. We'd go off in the truck to go somewhere, and if he had half a chance, he'd come with us.
Would he?
And he'd go up the drive with us and he would run up in that truck.
Yep.
And he would stop up there in the truck and you'd say, "You're not going with us, honey." So he was just, he was a character, but he taught me so much, and when I got things right, he would tell me straight away.
Yeah.
He was just super.
Wait, can you hear anything? No? That's because we're waiting for someone with a good quality horse product to be advertised here. If that's you, then contact us, horsechats@horsechats.com, and we'll send you the details. Thanks.
What do you think your proudest moment's been?
Oh, well, the proudest recent moment was only a couple of weeks ago on my last trip to China.
Yep.
Where China Pony Club actually awarded me a special contribution award for my work that I've done in China in the last 2 years. I had no idea whatsoever. One of the translators came and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Oh, Carol, they'd like you on the stage."
Yeah.
And I said, "But I've just been up there with the team." And they said, "Oh, no, we want you up there again." So up I go. And here's this beautiful map of China, drops down onto the stage with lots of little red dots on it.
Yeah.
And the president of China Pony Club hands me this beautiful crystal horse head trophy for my contribution to working in China for the last 2 years.
That's lovely.
Totally unexpected, absolutely out of the blue.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing. But I think, and if I go back, the next proudest moment would have to be in Portugal with Nuno.
Yep.
When I actually managed to get some tempi changes without him yelling at me, which was absolutely marvellous.
Yeah.
And he used to say to me, "Carol, you tried too hard. You tried too hard. You must relax." And the girls, they could take you to the disc tonight, that's the disco.
Yeah.
Because I was always trying, so very hard, because I loved being there and I loved what I was doing and wanted to achieve so much.
Yes.
But in trying, of course, that sort of makes you a bit stiff and a bit tense. And, when I eventually got those tempi changes was absolutely marvellous, and that was just fantastic. And even now, if I'm having an issue with a horse, I sort of put on Nuno's tapes and think, that's what he would have done.
Yes.
So those two things, both, the work in China and, with Nuno and Glenys all those years ago would have to be my proudest moments.
Mm. Okay. I'm just thinking about, your biggest challenge getting to where you are now, where you're able to contribute back. What do you think the biggest challenge is for professional horse people?
I think having confidence in yourself when there is lots of change.
Okay. Well, you've seen lots of change, so that's good.
Oh, yes, lots and lots and lots of change.
Yes.
Some of the change has been good. We've got some lovely bits that we can use nowadays that are certainly a lot softer and a lot kinder, maybe than we had years ago. There's a lot more science in our riding, that we have access to that we didn't have years ago.
Yeah.
But horses are still horses, and, I think they should be allowed to be horses. Just the change now is just so rapid. With all of our system, eventing has changed so much, dressage has changed so much. You only have to look back in Franz's book and look at the photos of him riding Gay Pam all those years ago,
yes,
and compare what we're looking for in a dressage horse today. They're as different as chalk and cheese. So having the confidence in what you believe is right, I think sometimes it's very difficult to keep that confidence. And I know a couple of times I've sort of questioned maybe I need to change and do what some of these other people are doing. And then I sort of think about it and I think, no. I'm really quite happy doing what I do. And, the things that I ask of my horses are just the same things that I asked 30 years ago.
Yes.
With patience and with calmness and with kindness. We don't see that all the time now because everybody's in so much of a jolly hurry that they forget that it takes time, and, it takes time to produce a horse. It takes time for the horse to have your confidence and, to recognise where the horse is at, because, of course, every horse is different.
Yes.
So just having the confidence to know where you're at and is this the track that you want to stay on? And I guess having had, many years behind me, there's been a few wavy lines, but I still keep on coming back to the same track, and that's probably where I'll stay forever.
Okay. What do you think then? You've been in the industry a while. What do you think is the biggest positive change over the last 50 years?
The biggest positive change. I think some of the bridles that we have available and some of the saddles that we now have saddles that fit probably a lot better than they used to do.
Yeah.
When I think of probably a lot of the pain that some of our horses went through because we just used to throw on anything and just sort of say, hey, go for it. But now we look at, the horse's conformation, and we have people that are specialists in that area.
Yeah.
So I guess the fitting of the gear, to me is quite a big issue, and especially we need to have saddles that do put the rider in the correct position. I think sometimes people sort of forget that because, if you can't sit in the correct position, you're pushing uphill.
Yep.
So that's everything has to sort of work together.
If you think about just a common fault that you see and think about the amount of people that you teach, what do you think is a common fault that people have when they ride? And how do you fix it?
I think they're in too much of a hurry.
Too much in a hurry for themselves to push up through the grades, or too much in a hurry to push their horse through the grades? Is it for themselves, for their horses, when you say too much of a hurry?
I think they want to push their horses up through the grades much too quickly, and a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. They might see a picture of a horse and they think, oh, gee, this horse looks pretty, it's got its head in, blah, blah, blah. And, you hear people all the time, oh, I pull the horse's head in, drives me spare.
Yeah.
They don't think about the back end and, and think that this is where the powerhouse is. And that, I guess, to me is the biggest issue, is that people won't let the horse stretch over the back and get the horse going forward properly before the horse puts itself together. And anybody with half a brain knows that if you warm the horse up correctly, generally the horse will start to put himself together anyway.
Yep.
You don't really need to do that much. The horse will tell you when he's ready, if you know what you're looking for.
Yes.
So
yes.
that to me is a big issue, not letting the horse come through from behind. And I guess, look at the conformation of the horse because, if the horse is built pretty upright, it might be hard for the horse to come through from behind. If the horse is built a bit long, it may never track up. If the horse is upright in the passions, it can cause all sorts of difficulties. So, people have to look at the conformation and the movement of the horse. Just because you buy a horse that you think you're going to show jump, hey, it may not make a show jumper. Or if you're looking for a horse to event and it's terrified of water, well, sorry, you may have to go in another direction.
Yep.
So they've got to understand that every horse is an individual, the same as every person.
Yes. I'm just thinking, I like the way that you said the horse will tell you when they're ready for the next step because it's about the communication and listening to the horse that they're going to tell you that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Communication is just so important. And not just when you're riding. When you're grooming the horse, when you're catching the horse, when you're floating the horse, everything that you do with the horse is communication and it's liaison. It doesn't matter, and it can be the same with a dog or a cat.
Yes.
That communication is so important. And like I said before, I drive in the driveway and my big horse especially, he knows my car. Yeah. I drive in the drive and if he's in the front paddock, the head goes up and before I've been out there opening the gate, he says, oh, here comes Mum. So to have that lovely rapport is just so important.
Yes.
Lots of kids, they have a horse and they go to pony club and, I ask the older riders, to tell me about their horse. And I'm surprised sometimes when they say, I hate my horse.
Whoa.
And it is amazed how many teenagers will tell me that, and I think it's awful.
Do you think they say that just to be cool?
I'm not really sure, but what I usually say to them, Venice, is if you don't like this horse, sell it and get another one. Because if they don't like the horse, they're never going to get the best out of it. And it's usually the older riders that I ask, the older teenagers, not the younger ones, because I'm interested in their thought process and what they think. And sometimes when I watch them riding, I'm sort of thinking, gee, I don't know what's going on. And if they tell me that they hate the horse, and you'd be amazed how many teenagers tell me they hate their horse. And I sort of think, why on earth are you there? And it's just a matter of steering them in the right direction. And if they don't like the horse, they're better off without it. And give it to somebody else that will get the most out of it.
Well, the horse is better off without it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And sometimes it can be as simple as the horse doesn't suit that particular rider.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they don't like horses and that they don't want to continue riding, but the horse is just not suitable for them as a person. It's a bit the same as some people have chihuahuas and some people have ridgebacks.
Sure.
Some people like small ponies. Some people like Clyde crosses. We're all different. We all have different wants and needs. So it's just a matter of discreetly trying to sort it. But I remember the first time I started asking riders, and I was so shocked. It set me back at first because they were so honest. And I thought, oh my goodness me, how am I going to answer this? So I do ask this question on a regular basis and then try and steer the situation around so that, we can find out why they don't like the horse. It may be something as simple as something that the horse is doing that they don't like in their riding, and it might be sorted very quickly. But it may be that they simply don't get on with the horse. And if they don't get on with the horse, they'd be better off to send that horse to somebody that does get on with it and find themselves something that will suit them.
Yes.
If you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now, have a look, horsechats.com.
Do you find the younger ones will say some things more positive? I'm just wondering about the peer pressure, because if you're asking people in front of their peers, they've just got to say something a bit cool, something a bit different, a bit shocking. Is it the younger ones like their horses better and the older ones just say that just to be cool?
I think certainly the younger ones just love their horse full stop, because I think they're a little bit more open mentally and, especially sort of probably up to 14 years of age. They really love their horses. Quite often when they grow out of their horses, and their parents say, oh, you'll have to sell, your small pony before I can get you something bigger. And they say, oh, no, I can't do it. I'm going to stay on my small pony,
Yes.
Because the parents might not be able to keep two horses.
Sure.
And of course it's always best if they can get the second one and then swap over slowly. So for those riders, they just absolutely love their horses or their ponies, which is absolutely marvellous, and if they were all like that, it would be super. It does seem to be that, once they get to 14, and peer pressure certainly does have a bit to do with it with some of them, especially if they've got a horse that they might, say, oh, well, I'd like to go to grade 2 trials, and maybe, it's an older horse and maybe it's never going to do it, and their best mate at schools, just got a whiz-bang really expensive horse that's a schoolmaster and does it all with his eyes closed. Yes, that can certainly be, a difficult situation. Not always a situation, but that certainly can happen. So I think you've just got to, work through the process and just sort of see what the real issue is.
Yes. Okay, Carol, what about a book? Have you got a book that you think has given you some positive change, something that you'd like to recommend?
Oh, Franz Marie Horses Are Made to Be. My favourite book. I don't know how many times I've lent it.
Yes.
Mine's got lots of green highlighter through it.
Yes.
Because especially if I'm teaching somebody and they have an issue and they happen to be a read-write learner rather than a visual learner, I just sort of say, here, take this, turn to this page and read the pieces that I've highlighted. So definitely my favourite book. I think I've read it inside out, from cover to cover about 1 million times. And, Franz was just absolutely marvellous for our country. I'm very lucky that he came here.
Yeah. That's certainly one of our more popular books, that one. Yeah.
That's good.
And remember, you can find all the books recommended by our guests at horsechats.com/books. You can have a look at the guest page for the individual book they recommended, or just look at the recommended books by order of popularity at horsechats.com/books.
What are you looking forward to now? Next year, 5 years? Just tell us what you're doing, what you're looking forward to.
Well, I've got a 9-year-old that has to sort of keep on injuring himself because some horses do. Only minor injuries, but I would really like to get back on him. He's a bit big for what I would really prefer. He didn't stop growing, so he's about 17 too. But my goal at the moment is to get back on him. Not necessarily to compete, but just to get out and have some fun on him in between a couple of trips, coming up to China as well. But my main goal is to get back on Pepsi because he's just lovely.
Oh, that's good. It's always nice, isn't it? I talk to people about, what are you looking forward to? They go, oh, more of the same. I'm already living my dream life, Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so, I'm not ready to give up and, my husband sort of, as I said, he calls it a disease, and I keep on saying, well, I'm not looking up at the lid yet.
Yes.
So, while I can still keep going, I do, not necessarily competing, but I'm, of course, look at competition all the time.
Yes.
But, as long as I can keep on going, even if it's just trail riding, and I love going down the beach.
Yep.
So, it's if I can just keep on doing that as long as I can, I'm quite happy.
Good. Now, would you be able to summarise your philosophy with horses just into a sentence or two? How would you say?
I think it's really important to love your horse and to take time with them and to have an open mind. I think that's really, really important to be open-minded.
Yes.
But love your horse and look after it. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah. Okay. And Carol, how can people contact you?
I'm available on Facebook or email.
Yes.
And on the EA Coaches page, I'm listed there, and the Pony Club Coaches page as well. So I'm quite happy for people to contact me.
Okay, and we'll put those details on Horse Chats as well. So they'll be horsechats.com/Carol Hobson, or go to horsechats.com, search for Hobson, or search for Carol Hobson. Okay.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for talking to us today. It's been good listening to your journey and listening to all the changes and, just hearing about what you're doing, and hopefully we'll catch up again with you sometime soon.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye.
Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.